Hey, welcome back to the channel. This is Chris of Flores Media. Today, I want to give you guys a couple tips on how to get better handheld footage when you're shooting with any kind of camera, right? Let's get into it. Today, I got my Sony a6400, and some of the tips that I'm going to include are going to be some tips that maybe you heard, but also a couple things that I've learned in my research that actually work. So there's going to be some of my recommendations followed by a little bit of tweaks, right? So tip number one, you need to add some weight to your camera. Most camera bodies, especially like my Sony a6400, it's a really light body. So you need to add some weight to it. Some of my favorite recommendations are this battery grip that I've added by Mikey. Not only does it double my battery life, but adds some weight to my camera body that makes it a lot easier, a lot chunkier to hold, but only also a little heavier to hold as well. So it feels a little bit firmer in the hand, right? Also, I've added this small rig cage that goes around my camera body and the battery grip. So it's a special cage. Even if you don't want to use the battery grip, or maybe you don't want to use this big camera cage, you can't just get a regular cage. I recommend the U-Rig cage. I'll leave it linked in the description below. It's a really awesome cage that has some curvature, so it's a lot more comfortable to hold, more comfortable than the one I have right now, but I use this one for functionality and weight, not so much for holding aesthetics, all right? Also, I use a lens, a heavy lens. This is the Sony 18-105 lens. So it's a really heavy lens, but love the picture quality that I get out of it, and the zoom range is awesome as well. And finally, I've got a top handle. We're gonna get into the top handle in just a second, all right? So that was tip number one, add some weight to your camera. Tip number two, you need to use a stabilized lens. The a6400 does not have stabilization, just like the 6500 or the 6600, which do. This one doesn't. So if you have a lens that has OSS, there you go, OSS, it's gonna make it a lot easier to get some stabilized footage, all right? Let's check it out. So this is OSS off. As you can see, it's pretty shaky. Now let's try that one again with some OSS on. So it's not a gimbal, but it does for sure give you some more help to shake out those micro jitters that you may get, all right? So tip number three, I think we're on. Use a wide lens. Do not try to shoot all up in your subject's face or all up in your subject trying to shoot handheld, because those micro jitters are gonna be really, really obvious. Shoot with a wider lens. That's why I love this lens, because it's heavy, it has stabilization, but the awesome zoom range that I get out of it. So at 18 millimeter, which is a 27 full frame equivalent, it's wide enough to vlog, or it's wide enough to eliminate those micro jitters that you might see at the edges or in the corners or on the sides when you're shooting so narrow, right? Let's check some of that out. So right now I'm shooting at 50 millimeters with OSS on, and it's pretty shaky. All right, now let's try it again. But this time, let's go wide all the way at 18. All right, so far, what do we got? We've got add some weight to your camera. We've got use lenses that have stabilization in it. And we've got use a wider lens, all right? Next tip, pro tip. This one's gonna be one of my favorites. You need a top handle. It is so much easier, so much better to let nature, to let science, to let gravity do its thing versus us try to fight it, right? So my problem was that I'm out here trying to hold the camera like this, and even if I had it tight right next to me, with this lens, I have it kind of trying to go forward on me. So it's a constant battle on my back. The muscles on my back get a little tight, and yeah, I get hurt. You might call me a wimp, but whatever, I'm telling the truth. But if I let gravity do its thing and I get a top handle, my camera, gravity is pulling down on my camera, and all I really have to do is just kind of, I'm not even holding it right here. I'm just kind of keeping it still so that I let gravity do its thing, and all I'm doing is guiding it, balancing it just a little bit, all right? So you need a top handle. And why do I like this top handle? because of all of its threads. It has a cold shoe back here. It's got a magnetic slot right here, so that if you have any kind of like Allen keys that you need to keep on you, you could just throw it right in there. You got a cold shoe here on the side, cold shoe on the other side. You've got a cold shoe at the top, and overall it's just a steady, comfortable thing to hold on your camera. So much easier to hold your camera, keep it steady, holding it from the top like this and letting gravity do its thing, versus staying so tight like this and your muscles tensing up and you end up just Next tip, maybe you don't want to get a top handle, maybe you can't afford a top handle, maybe you want to do a little bit more research on the top handle. Like I said, just get you this one, save you the headache. But anyways, maybe you don't want a top handle, right? I know you've all seen it, but I'm gonna throw it again in this video. Get you a strap, even the strap that comes with your camera. I don't have it, but maybe that's what you got, maybe that's what you like, maybe it's good enough, maybe you got a better strap. But what you want to do with your strap is keep it tight, and that'll help you stabilize the footage, because then all you have to worry about is the up and down, right? Depending on the way you're holding it. So if you keep it tight, all you're doing is really panning, and you're just trying to control the up and down versus having to have it up and down, trying to control it all the way, right? So use your strap. That's another option you can use, right? Another thing that's gonna help you out to get some more stable footage is you gotta keep your elbows tight. You gotta keep the camera close to your body, points of contact, all right? Don't just walk around shooting like this, because you're gonna shake the camera, right? Don't walk around shooting like that. Make sure you got two hands. What do I recommend? One, obviously holding the camera, just like this, and another one on the lens. If you got a zoom lens, you keep it right here. You got light touches to be able to zoom in and out. So right under the lens or right under the body as well, but you don't want to shoot like this, because that eventually your arms are gonna get tired and your video might start here, but 30 seconds, 1 minute into the video, your camera just starts just taking a nosedive, right? So you want to keep your elbows tight like this, tight. You want to look buff right here. Make sure your muscles are showing. Wear you a short sleeve shirt like this. Show them muscles. I'm not gonna show them because I'm like 3 different colors. But keep your elbows tight. And right there, that'll get you some stable footage. Keep your elbows tight, keep the camera as close as you can to your body, all right? Another tip that you wanna do, when you're doing your movements, keep the movements subtle, right? Don't go like this, because that is not subtle at all. All that's gonna look like here. Let me show you what that's gonna look like. Not subtle at all. That was just shaky and choppy, right? But if you have the body, if you got the camera close to your body, how's it going, dude? If you got the camera close to your body and you do that exact same movement, but without stretching out your arms, you actually move your body. Move your body, pretend your body's a gimbal, right? Don't just go like this, twisting. I mean, if that's the shot you're going for, then sure, it works. I like to do more slider shots. So I kind of start off and let me back out so you can see what I'm talking about. Hopefully you can see. I think you can see. I bend my knees a little bit, put my feet about maybe the width of my shoulders, lean one way on one knee, and go the other way with the other knee. That's gonna give me a little fake slider shot. And it's gonna look more cinematic. Oh, cinematic. Which is what we all want it to look like, right? So that's gonna be another tip you need to do. Keep your movements subtle, right? What you just saw was one of the funniest ones that I've seen, but you know what? It actually works. You're gonna want to set up your shot, obviously. Set up your shot. You need to have your shot completely set up before you even try this, okay? Set up your shot. You're gonna let yourself fall forward or backwards. And you're gonna catch yourself, right? Please catch yourself. Do not fall. Do not smack yourself. Do not drop the camera. Please catch yourself. You know your limit, I know my limit. Catch yourself. But you're gonna lean forward, catch yourself, or lean backwards, and catch yourself, you're gonna get maybe a second or two, or maybe three if you're really, really flexible, and you could do that whole like Michael Jackson thing all the way to the front. But you're gonna get some pretty cool, like flowy kind of footage going forward or backwards. And then out of nowhere, you're just gonna chop and fall, right? That's the footage. That's gonna be your marker to tell you, like, cut this footage, right? Especially if you're shooting in slow motion, it's gonna look really, really cool, right? Fall, but catch yourself. Catch yourself. This next tip is gonna be so obvious, you probably heard it already, but I'm gonna say it again for all those maybe that haven't heard it, right? Shoot in slow motion, right? You got weight to your camera, you've got a stabilized lens, you're shooting wide. The ultimate thing, the last thing that you can add to make your footage stable handheld is to shoot in slow motion, right? Let me show you. So this is no slow motion. This is gonna be slow motion at 60p. So with the slow motion, it actually knocks out some of those micro jitters because it's slow enough to where you won't even notice it, okay? So those are some of my tips, some of my favorite tips, some of the ones that I decided that work to get some stabilized handheld footage, all right? You don't need a gimbal. I mean, gimbals are nice, gimbals are awesome, but I personally do not like having to set up the gimbal. I don't like having to practice so many movements. Like if I wanted to go this way, up and that way, I don't want to have to practice over and over to get the shot right, because sometimes the gimbal might pass it and then come back. It's just, you know, I mean, you can fix it in post, but I just want to get it right, okay? So sometimes I even shoot without a stabilized lens, or I turn the steady shot off just to get rid of some of that warpy stuff that might happen because the lens is trying to like combat or trying to fight against what I'm trying to get it to do. So sometimes I even turn off the stabilization and I get my movement right in camera. And the last tip that I'm gonna give you, add some warp stabilizer or some kind of stabilization in your editing software. That's gonna get you where you need to be, okay? If you're gonna rely a lot on stabilizer, make sure that you're shooting wider than you need it to be, right? Maybe you want this kind of framing right here. You feel like this is what you need it to be, but you're gonna need to shoot a little bit wider because stabilization is gonna crop in. So if this is the shot you want, you might want to stand out this far so that when it crops in, this is what you end up with, right? Because if not, if you're shooting out here like this and then you're counting on stabilization to do its thing, then this is gonna be your shot. And this is a little too intimate for us, okay? But this is how I'm gonna end the video. Goodbye. Please subscribe. Like this video, share this video. Tell your uncle, tell your mom, tell your grandma to like, subscribe to my video. If you're my student watching this video, because I am a teacher, I'm a Spanish teacher, I'm actually pretty smart. I'll give you some extra points if you subscribe and share this channel, all right? Peace.